Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and this week we have a lot shifting for the better, in my opinion. We are moving into Sagittarius season. We have the Sagittarius New Moon. Jupiter is stationing direct. There's a sense of optimism or really seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. I even felt inspired to get these beautiful like gold and orange roses to really represent that light. And Sagittarius is a fire sign. What does fire do? It illuminates. It allows us to see. It keeps us warm. So as we wrap up Scorpio season, as we come out of that eclipse season that we have been contending with for the past few weeks, I trust that a lot of us will start to feel a bit different, or the work that you've been doing, not only throughout Scorpio season, but all year long, even back to the beginning of this year when Venus was retrograde, we're going to start to see some of those rewards. We're going to start at least feeling like things are shifting in our favor. And that really even comes into play later on this week with a few of the transits. So let's hop in and discuss, shall we? So with this week, we are starting on Monday, November 21st. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So something important to note is that the start of this week, we are in that dark moon phase as the moon is losing light. We are getting ready for that Sagittarius new moon, which will be happening on Wednesday. So it just feels like there's a lot of wrapping up of loose ends. There might be lessons that we are fully integrating that are kind of like knocking us over the head a couple times. And now we finally learned where to implement said lesson or really know what our value and our worth is. And you can even see here with the sun being at 29 degrees on Monday in Scorpio, looking to that Scorpio house in your natal chart as the sun is finishing up its journey here and really reflecting over the past 4 weeks, reflecting over this Scorpio season, eclipse season, what you have learned, where you want to go, how you're going to take this energy and move forward with it. And we can even see here that the sun is making that trine to Jupiter still. So there could be something really fortuitous, something illuminating, some kind of opportunity that might even come through. So really see where you want to shine, what makes you happy, because then there could be an opportunity for Jupiter to work its magic here as well. And Jupiter is about to station direct. So this is going to be good news for everyone. So it might not even be that something overly lucky or fortunate happens on Monday, but you could get the download or you could start moving energy in motion so that as the week progresses, as we move into Sagittarius season, that idea and that download can start growing more and more and more. So I really would take time on Monday, given we're in the dark moon phase, given that the sun is making a trine to Jupiter, to take time for yourself, to spend a bit more time on your spiritual practice, to see what is coming through, especially on an emotional level, right? We're talking about Scorpio, the sun, Jupiter in Pisces. Both of those are water signs. So this could also be a good time to really process your emotions, or maybe take a long bath or a long shower, be near a body of water just to see what comes up, to really lean into that water energy to further build on these gifts, right? And it's also interesting that Mercury and the Venus are kind of like canoodling in Sagittarius. They kind of are really going to be close within 1 degree all week. And furthermore, when we go to Tuesday and the sun enters Sagittarius, we now have the sun, Venus, and Mercury all in the sign of Sagittarius. So really look to the house in your natal chart ruled by Sagittarius, because there's going to be so much activation, so much energy, especially with Mercury being the messenger and Venus, what we value, love, relationships. In that Sagittarius ruled house in your natal chart, there could be a lot of correspondence, a lot of business deals, a lot of things to make you happy. And of course, if you are a Sagittarius or a Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius moon, this is a really, really, really beautiful time to expand. Like we were saying before last week, that we didn't really have a lot of planets in fire signs, right? Because Jupiter retrograded back into Pisces on October 28th. So finally, we have some dominant fire energy to bring that passion, that joy, that optimism. When we see the sun or when there is a candle lit, it just illuminates things and it allows us to kind of see where we need to go. And it just makes us overall happy. So in my opinion, Sagittarius season is the most opportunistic, most blessed, lightest energy that we can deal with for the entire year of 2022. So please use it to your advantage. I will say that we're still in this dark moon phase on Tuesday. So it does seem like the moon is kind of making some tricky aspects, right? The moon is conjunct the south node. The moon is making an applied square to Saturn. The moon is opposing Uranus. So it could kind of be, I'm not sure if you ever had this feeling where you're getting ready for an amazing vacation. You're so excited to spend a week on the beach, but you have to pay your bills. You have to get the dry cleaning. You have to pick up the kids. You have to make sure all these loose ends are wrapped up before you can finally allow yourself a chance to relax. And there might be a bit of that energy where you can feel like something big or something opportunity or some kind of love is coming in, but you just need to make space for it, especially with that moon conjunct the south node. Just intuitively, you might need to let go of a resentment. You might need to forgive someone, not necessarily because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. If you've been holding on to something, or you're angry at something or someone, or something has been holding you back, like a fear or pain or a grudge or whatever, even trauma, this could be an opportunity to have some boundaries placed. And again, it could be with a feminine energy. It could be with a mother, a sister, a female energy in your life, that a change in how you feel about that person or that situation, or putting a better boundary, is going to allow you to enjoy it that much better. So Tuesday is a bit turbulent, and especially given that the moon is in her dark moon phase in Scorpio, where it can be very emotional, very overwhelming. So it's kind of like one last final dessert from Scorpio energy before we begin a new course, a new chapter in Sagittarius season. Okay, so just be aware that Tuesday might be a little bit intense, might be a little bit emotional, but knowing that that energy, those emotions, those feelings need to come up to the surface so that we can clear them and or place better structures and boundaries to support us, so that we don't have to feel maybe those hardships or need to go through those lessons again, because we've learned the lessons, we've integrated them, and we've set ourselves up for success. So those can all be things that will come through on Tuesday. Now, Wednesday, that new moon in Sagittarius isn't happening until 5:57 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we still, depending on your time zone, for most of Wednesday as well, we're still in that dark moon phase. The blessed thing here is that the moon is making trines to both Neptune and Jupiter. So Tuesday night would be a very great time to set any intentions before you go to sleep, that they could be things that you learn through while you're sleeping, while you're dreaming, knowing that your thoughts could rapidly manifest. Certain things might become obvious. And also, too, I'm not sure if any of you have experienced before, but when you're setting a new course or a new belief, or you're wanting to pursue something new, sometimes the universe likes to make sure that we're ready, that we're not going to self-sabotage, or that we're not going to go back to a place of safety. So let's say you really want to make 6 figures and you're applying for jobs. You left one job that wasn't aligned and people are offering you 75, they're offering you 80, they're offering you 90. Are you going to stay firm and knowing that you want to get paid 6 figures or as close to as possible? Or are you going to go back, and maybe that old job that you left is like, hey, come back and we'll give you 90 grand. It would be tempting to maybe to go back to that job and get money that's close to what you know you're worth, or staying true and knowing that I want exactly this. I know that I'm worth it. And 6 figures is the minimum. I'm going for 110, 150, 175, whatever you want. There can sometimes be that residual energy that comes up that is just seeing if we're really ready for the next level. And that part of me is like, those synchronicities in this case can help you, being like, you're so close. Like we're saying, the light is there. You don't need to go back and worry that you missed something. It's just looking forward. It's just being present and knowing that it's all coming. So I think that before we hit this new moon in Sagittarius, that there could be a lot of intuitive messages, a lot of signs and synchronicities that are supporting you along the way. So really, again, it's kind of like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The more time you can go inward, which is an energy that we would do with a dark moon phase anyway. You want to rest. You don't want to push as hard. You want to make sure that you're listening to your body. Remember, the moon is connected with the body. And especially given the moon is moving through Scorpio during this dark moon phase, it really is a lot of that internal processing and one final scoop of eclipse dessert before we go fully into this. So just be mindful, be patient with yourself. And then once we get to Thursday, This is going to be really nice. And Thursday is a really beautiful day because we can see here that the moon is sandwiched in right between Venus and Mercury. So then this can also be an opportunity where things come in extremely fast. Sagittarius is mutable fire. It expands. It just wants to grow. It doesn't want to be contained. Also be open to changing your mind because the moon is going to be making that square to Neptune and Jupiter. It's going to be opposing Mars. You might feel like you're all over the place, or if you're pursuing something new or wanting something to happen really badly. Now with all of this mutable energy, look at this. We have 4 planets in Sagittarius, 2 in Pisces, 1 in Gemini. That's 7 planets in mutable signs. Potentially doing things the same way over and over and over again, how you think about things, how you interact in relationships, your thoughts around money, it's probably not going to serve you. There might be something new or something that you're feel called to do differently, to see things in a different fashion, to get a better result. Even as I'm filming this, it's like the sun is just shining in the brightest it's ever have. So that's a beautiful sign. And even if you're not one to enjoy change, it could be doing things like maybe instead of meditating first thing in the morning, you meditate after you shower or meditate after you have breakfast, just doing one little change throughout the day and see how that affects you. And sometimes it might not feel comfortable or it might not feel comfortable at first, but you just want to switch the order in which you do things, even just one thing, because if we get in that same pattern, that same routine of doing things over and over and over again, it's like we're playing at the same level and we're not seeing things from a different light or not allowing ourselves to grow and just to be malleable and adaptable. And that is one really big advantage of mutable signs, or those that have strong mutable energy. So Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, and Gemini, is that they can adapt, or that they can do multiple things at once, or they're not afraid of change. They're not afraid of starting over. Sometimes it can mean that they have a whole bunch of projects going on. They don't finish them always. However, they don't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, the exact same way. They like to try different things. So don't be scared if you're feeling called to approach something in a different fashion. I would almost encourage you to go fully in and see what comes through, because it might surprise you, or it might lead you in a direction that you're not expecting, but that's going to help you get to the next level. It just isn't what you thought it was supposed to be, or in the order that you deemed acceptable. Be open to change. And Thursday is also just a great day for like intention setting, manifestation, having the moon connected to both Venus and Mercury. And it's still far enough away. It's 11 degrees away from Mars. So this is kind of nice. So that like kind of Wednesday night, Thursday morning, really good time to call forth. Mercury connecting with the moon here, quite nice. And then there's also that sextile that we have to Saturn. So there might be some diligence or some groundedness to these intentions, or to the manifestations that you're setting, or something that you're looking to for the long game, or something that you're willing to commit to for a little bit longer than just a day or a week. So this is a very benefic day. I'm just really optimistic with this Sagittarius new moon that it'll set forth a new chapter, a new pace for all of us. And of course, looking to the house ruled by Sagittarius, we'll see where maybe that new origin of energy, where those new thoughts are likely to manifest. So when we get to Friday, this is just something to be cognizant of, because now the moon, she's making that opposition to Mars. And then there's also kind of Neptune in the middle. Thankfully, by the time we get to Friday, the moon is making a separating square from Neptune. But remember a few weeks ago, I said that a friend of mine and we were walking in the woods, and then the dog had a tree branch and it ran right between us and hit our legs. So of course, be careful of where you're walking, maybe not looking at your phone while walking, because Mars, in aspect to the moon, can affect us. Gemini, the nervous system, the lungs, the arms, the hands. Sagittarius is the legs, kind of like from the hips, that femur part is where Sagittarius rules. So just be mindful. And again, it could just be that you worked out really intensely on Thursday and now your legs are sore on Friday. But we do want to be careful that if we are daydreaming, that can be an aspect of Neptune, that we need to watch where we're walking, or not getting lost in thought and allowing that to distract us and maybe cause some emotional turmoil. And that can also be too, it's like I'm setting forth new goals, new intentions, and then you have one conversation with someone. They're like, do you really think that's going to work? It's like, do you think you're worthy of that? Or it's like, you can't afford that. And then you start to spiral because you allow that one thought in to take hold. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in the astrology question of the week, but you know me, if you've been following my content, a lot of times I'm like, limit notifications, try and stay off social media. I would say as you're integrating from that Sagittarius new moon, even earlier on in the dark moon phase, but especially as these new ideas are just being planted into your subconscious or into your mind, we don't need other people trampling into our garden and uprooting and destroying the seeds that we just planted. So just be very careful. I am kind of optimistic though, because the moon is making that square to Jupiter, right? So on Friday, it could be, because Jupiter expands things. It could also make our dreams even bigger. Or it's like, oh, you're thinking about doing this. Why not do this? It's kind of like, when you are ordering food, it's like, do you want the snack option or the meal-sized option? So it's like, do you want the snack-sized option of your dreams, or do you want the whole all-you-can-eat buffet version of your dreams? So that for me is like, the universe might be able to give you what you want, but maybe it's going to give you so much more what you need to serve an even greater purpose that you can't see at this moment. And again, Jupiter being in one of its favorite signs, we have the sun and the moon in Jupiter ruled signs, right? Because Sagittarius is also ruled by Jupiter. It just gives this beautiful energy, this miraculous energy, and we want to contain that as much as possible. And since we're still coming off the heels of eclipse season, you might still feel like you're integrating. You might still feel tired. You might still feel like you're processing a lot. So if you're in that boat, especially I've heard from many people online, clients who have strong Scorpio energy, that they went through a lot. So I don't want you to overextend yourself or try and help everyone do everything. I want you to focus a bit more on yourself first. And when and only when your cup is overflowing, do you help others, or maybe sharing your dreams with others. But first, this is really still all this energy that's coming through post-eclipse season, post-Sagittarius new moon. Contain it for yourself. Extend your spiritual practice. Take time to dream big, because this is where all of those seeds can be planted, and it can happen really quick. And I think a more diligent, focused tone is going to come in over the weekend, because now we have the moon in Capricorn. And furthermore, we have the moon making that trine to Uranus in Taurus. So for me, this is more like a pragmatic energy. It's like, great, we have these dreams, we have these ideas. Now, how are we going to implement it? How are we going to be a good steward of our time? How are we going to seek out help to make this possible? And like I said, Venus and Mercury, now Mercury surpassed Venus, is going faster, but they're still within a very close orb. So be open to messengers, be open to random books, podcasts, people, courses that can help you, because Sagittarius is all about higher learning. Sagittarius wants to explore. It wants to have these experiences. It wants to be able to talk with other people and gain this knowledge, gain a perception of their life, right? Like, again, Jupiter is a fire sign. Sagittarius is a fire sign ruled by Jupiter. So there is this longing for hunger and adventure and wealth and opportunity. So be open to that. This is the time to really be able to get inspired in whatever way you feel inspired, whether that's watching your favorite movies, whether that's reading books, whether that's connecting with certain people. I just want you to be able to put yourself in situations that align with your dreams, whatever that is, so that the universe can drop these little nuggets to help you. Like, I remember even before I started Stillwater Alchemy, I was transitioning between different opportunities and doing a whole bunch of part-time gigs. And then I got an email being like, oh, tarot course. And I was already very proficient in tarot, but part of me was like, just take a course so that you can confirm from an expert who's been doing tarot for a long time as well, that you know what you're talking about. It's kind of like that imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it. So then I did the course and I definitely knew what I was talking about. I was like, okay, I can start charging money because I know that I'm in the right in knowing how I'm speaking about this spiritual tool. So that could be a situation as well where there is an opportunity for you to get serious about something that you can and then invest time or money or energy in that field. And furthermore, once we get to Sunday is a really powerful day because we have the moon conjunct Pluto, and the moon is also making sextiles to Neptune and Jupiter. So you know how we said earlier in the week on Tuesday when the moon was in Scorpio making trines to Neptune and Jupiter, that it would be a good day to pay attention to your dreams, especially when you are sleeping. Sunday, like Saturday night, Sunday is also a great time to do that because the moon conjunct Pluto is then making aspects to Neptune, Jupiter. So there's an aspect of truth or power, or sometimes with Pluto, oftentimes there's this element of obsession or really wanting to go full in on something. It's either like magnifying something or getting down right to the fine microscopic detail. So you might just find something that you want to go all in on, or something that you're really curious about, and really dive into that subject material over the weekend. And Sunday, there might be a profound truth or something that you have a breakthrough in, whether that's having someone hold space for you, or even just through your own reflection that's coming through. And even just with eclipses, sometimes you experience the most intense element of that eclipse during eclipse season, but sometimes it reverberates outward over the next weeks or months, especially in the houses that are ruled by Scorpio and Taurus. So don't be surprised if a big, profound nugget of truth or knowledge or intuition drops on your lap Saturday, Sunday, as the moon is in connection to Pluto and with Jupiter. So these are just, again, it's a complete tonal shift from what we just experienced with Scorpio and eclipse season. And now there's this inspiration, these ideas, this action, this passion that is going to be calling us forth. And not only all of these things, but a different feeling of this is all going to work out. Everything is going to be okay. It's like when you're building a puzzle and it's like an 1,000 piece or 10,000 piece puzzle. You're like, where do I even start with this puzzle? But once you get the outside done, or once you start putting pieces together, you're building that momentum. You're like, I've looked at these pieces for such a long time. I now know it's like, it doesn't go in that corner of the puzzle. It has to go here. And you start building that momentum, and it builds and builds and builds. And you can just feel yourself getting further to finishing that puzzle, or you can feel yourself collapsing timelines, and you're getting closer and closer to that goal or that dream version of yourself. That's, to me, what this week feels like, is that we're getting this forward momentum that is getting us closer to something that we really want. So it's great. It is that light at the end of the tunnel. And it's something that we should feel really excited about, because a lot of us have been integrating and working and feeling the pressure that Scorpio season brought. But again, just like all cycles of life, we have the ebbs, we have the flows, we have the contraction, we have the expansion. So this really is, especially at that Sagittarius new moon, a full expansion. Okay. And of course, come the Sagittarius new moon, I will have that workshop available on our website. So stay tuned for that. And now we get to the astrology question of the week. So I've been getting a lot of questions in different ways online, and even things that come up in client sessions around this Mars retrograde, and asking a bit more details on that. So remember, with Mars, even the symbol of Mars, it's a shield and a sword. So it's a circle with that upward arrow, right? So that upward arrow is like the sword, the circle is the shield, two symbols that Aries yielded, right? The god of war. And so with Mars, we have this element of it equally attacks and defends. And Mars retrogrades once every 2 years, approximately, and it retrogrades for 10 weeks. So the last time that Mars was retrograde was between September 9th and November 14th of 2020. So you can think back to September to November of 2020, when Mars was retrograde in Aries, to see how you were feeling, even just no matter what sign Aries, or pardon me, no matter what sign Mars is in, it can speak to potentially slowing down, a retrograde theme, but slowing down or decrease of energy or vitality or motivation. And with this current Mars retrograde being in the sign of Gemini, it's all about our thoughts. It very much is the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword. So kind of like a Mars and Aries archetype could be brute strength, or going after something and just going with all force immediately. Mars and Gemini, though, that's being very intelligent. That's being strategic with our words. I always find that when people have Mars and Gemini in their natal chart, that they can be very verbose, that they can be gregarious. Sometimes they can be, or do the fighting with their words than with anything else. And sometimes I find with Mars and Gemini individuals that they always have to have the last word, that they're going to end the fight or the conflict with their mind, with their intellect, no matter the cost. So even if they're wrong, they will find a point, or they can find a weakness to end the conversation or end the fight with their mind. And sometimes that can work against us when we allow our mind to run the show, because then we just end up attacking ourselves with our mind and then we get lost. Or we allow ourselves to self-sabotage and no one else is holding us back. No one else is fighting this fight except for us. And that's come up again in client sessions where it's based on our own beliefs, based on our own mindset, based on projections, based on fears as to why we're not succeeding. No one else is holding us back, but especially with this Mars retrograde in Gemini, I want you to pay close attention to your mind. And even if we just pull up the chart really quickly, that Mars retrograde had been making such a strong square with Neptune. And thankfully, that exact square between Mars and Neptune happened on Saturday, November 19th. So now when we look to Sunday, November 27th, Mars is already 2.5 degrees away from Neptune. And that is making a separating square, which is nice. And it's not going to be as intense. Because I have a lot of clients who are very mentally disciplined and they are focused. They wake up every day, they meditate, they journal, but it doesn't even have to be about your own discipline. It could be a loved one or a colleague saying something. Let's say they think their partner's cheating or they're worried about money. And then for them, if we don't tame our mind, then that thought can spiral and it can be very hard to get ourselves out of that. So I want to pass that along because up until now, ever since Halloween, like October 30th, 31st, when Mars stationed retrograde, we've been dealing with that intense square to Neptune the entire time. And now that'll decrease a little bit. So that even speaks to the optimism and the faith that is coming through with this Sagittarius energy, that if we have these thoughts or these beliefs, that it probably won't be as detrimental, or it's not going to cause us to spiral as much and being like, what if it goes wrong? What if this doesn't work? What if people judge me? What if people laugh? Whatever those negative thoughts that we have about certain dreams or beliefs, now it can be a bit easier. I will say that, of course, Mars and Gemini now is going to be opposing the placements that are going through Sagittarius. So the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So we'll talk about that when those aspects are more intense. But just be aware that when we have these new beliefs, when we have these new ideals, when we're wanting to attract new relationships of whatever kind, that again, with Mars, it equally attacks as it does defend. So you might need to defend yourself. You might need to defend your new routines, your new habits. You might not. It might even just be defending it to your own self. It's like, I'm really going to spend X amount on blank. Your mind might be saying that. You might have to defend yourself from your mind saying, no, I'm worth it. This is a great investment. It's going to come back to me tenfold. Yes, I'm going to invest X amount on whatever it is. And sometimes you might have to have those conversations with certain people and saying, hey, I feel like this relationship is unbalanced. I see like you're doing this, using your words to work on your relationships. And this might be a conversation that you've meant to have for a long time with a certain person. And now you can't avoid doing it because if you want to get to that future version of yourself, you have to have these conversations. So don't be surprised. I also know that, yes, Venus is very much linked to love, lovers, but Mars is also what we're passionate about. Mars is action. Mars is drive. So Mars, I find too, can often be linked to lovers because again, Venus on its own needs to connect with someone, Mars, to have that relationship or like that intimacy, that passion. So it takes two or more to tango. So don't be surprised that during Sagittarius season, especially as Venus gets closer and closer to that opposition with Mars retrograde, if previous lovers come back into the scene or if previous opportunities, like I gave that example of someone leaving their old job and then that old job coming back to them and saying, hey, like we want you to come back, we'll pay you blank amount. There might be certain things that come back to your scope to see if you're still passionate about them, to see if you still want to work for that person or for that company, to see if you still want to put passion and energy into that source. So just be aware that these things might come in. Know what you want to fight for. Know what you want to defend. And that'll make it so much easier when certain things come across your path as you're walking along your journey to know where you need to use your words or where you need to tame your mind in order to move through very easily. The one last example I'll give, there's always like those riddles of like you're coming up to a bridge and a giant ogre crosses your path. Do you fight the ogre? Do you confuse the ogre? Do you befriend the ogre? Or do you find another alternative? Like it's kind of like those riddles where, yeah, you could go in full guns blazing, more like a Mars and Aries type archetype. Or is there a way to use your mind, to use your words, to use your intellect to move past the obstacle? Or maybe really claiming your intelligence, really being firm and steadfast in your beliefs during this Mars retrograde in Gemini. So in Mars stations direct, January 12th of 2023, you've already done the mental training. It's like you're literally every day going into the Coliseum or going into a gym and your mind is getting a workout. And you can use this time to really do some rehab or do some conditioning on a certain part of your mindset or a certain part of your brain, or you could not. And the trainer is waiting for you at the Coliseum, at the gym, but still we have autonomy. We get to decide whether or not we want to use these transits and these opportunities for our benefit or not. So that is a bit more information on this Mars retrograde. If you've been feeling like it's a lot, especially mentally or with your beliefs, that's going to get easier simply because of Sagittarius season. But then be aware that you might need to have some conversations, or you might need to have some more awareness with your mind so that these new beliefs or these new goals that you're pursuing and strengthening don't get lost in these Mars retrograde arenas. Or just because it's not happening yet doesn't mean it's not happening currently. Because again, sometimes Mars accelerates things. Mars wants things to happen very quickly. So if Mars is retrograde, it's slowing things down for everyone. And just because something is slowing down doesn't mean it's not moving. It just means that sometimes we're meant to enjoy the roses, enjoy this level before we accelerate again. So that also too, you can look to the house in your natal chart ruled by Gemini, and that can even just show you an area where you're meant to slow down, where it's not meant for you to go lightning speed and to blow past your contemporaries or competition, or however you think about people in your field or people in your family or friend group. Slow down and identify where you want to attack, where you want to defend, where you want to fight, and where you can reevaluate. And that'll just really make things that much more clear. And I really believe if you've been doing the work, especially during this eclipse season, it'll be very obvious where that is happening in your life, even without looking at your natal chart. Intuitively, you're like, this is where I want to focus in my energy or focus my diligence to learn more during this Mars retrograde period. Okay. So let me know how that resonates with regards to Mars retrograde and with regards to the entire week ahead. If you have any follow-up questions or general questions about Mars retrograde, let me know, because I wouldn't mind just doing an astrology question of the week for the next few weeks so that people can help understand this Mars retrograde and help to integrate it. Because like I said, it is such a rarity to have a Mars retrograde happen once every 2 years. And you can also look at it as an opportunity. If we're talking about higher learning in Sagittarius activation, you really receive a masterclass in that Gemini ruled house in your natal chart, because Mars is an extended figure. It would be like having a sergeant or a general or a personal trainer at your house every single day, and you're going to do the work, or you have the opportunity to do the work if you so choose. So enjoy it, because soon Mars will move into Cancer, which is a completely different vibe. So you could really learn a lot if you give yourself the permission to during this time. Okay, beautiful. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful week ahead. Happy birthday to all my Sagittarius angels, and I shall talk to you soon. Bye.